Hi,
Hello.
welcome to episode 8 of Unruly by Nature with your hosts, Rachel Knott of My Animal Matters, Sue Mim
Bonjour.
of Heart Connection Dogs, and
Howdy.
myself, Kim Howitt of Raidho Canine. This is the place you come to if you just want to listen to unscripted stuff. And we love to talk about animals. We love to talk about nature, essential oils, maybe even the moon or the snow or whatever. So, welcome in, and I can't wait to see where today's conversation goes. And I'm just going to open it up with a question for the ladies.
Drum roll.
As practitioners, amazing practitioners, let me rephrase, there's always something that we would like to say to a client on the first meeting that we have with them. Call it a truth bomb, if you will. There are many, I'm sure. But if you could drop one truth bomb on a client on the very first visit, instead of maybe all the niceties that we feel like we have to tend to, something that they need to hear about your work, what is one thing that might be?
I've got one. There's no such thing as a behavior problem. Just a perception problem. The dogs don't know they have behavior problems. They're just expressing their honest selves in every moment. But they're a different species. So they don't know they've got a behavior problem. They are. It's us that thinks they have a behavior problem. But ultimately, it's just we haven't got all the information yet. So it's just a perception thing. I think that would be an honesty, which might be quite hard for people to hear because, of course, the whole dog world is built on an industry. There's millions of businesses that are built upon there being dogs have behavior problems. But they don't. We just have a perception of their behavior, which we consider to be a problem. Basically, some behaviors we love, others behavior we think are a bit shit. And the ones that we think are a bit shit are the ones that we call behavior problems, the ones we don't like because they're troublesome for us. So that's the truth of it, is that, yeah. That's my truth bomb.
So good.
Brilliant.
So
And
good.
spot on. Yeah. I think, certainly that is one. I think an offshoot of that, I would say, is expectations, which is the same thing. What are we expecting from our dogs? My dog does this, my dog does that, my dog does this and doesn't do this and it does do this and blah, blah, blah. What are your expectations of your dog? I mean, let's be honest. Again, we expect this little dog to be almost robotic-like, be quiet when the visitors come, jump up all over me when I say it's okay. Don't get muddy and dirty, but have a ball and, all these kind of things. It's just like there's so many, what is the word? Paradoxes.
Restrictions? Oh,
And
yeah.
it's just like, oh, we want the dog to do this, but we don't want it to do that. And we wanted to do this in this situation and not do that. The expectations of what we expect a dog to is like very much on a performance level. It's like, my dog must perform in such a way or must behave in such a way in such a situation, which is, not giving the dog any, what is the word? I'm lacking words today.
Credit?
It's not getting the dog any credit or just allowing them to be who they are. And trying to understand them rather than, why are they doing that or what are they communicating with that? As you say, it's just, behavior is communication. So what are they communicating versus I don't like what you're doing or I don't like that you're doing it in this situation. So it's very confusing for dogs of what we expect. I think expectations are really, really high. And I think one more thing I'll add there is often can hear myself in my head when people are telling me what's going on, and I just say, slow down, slow down, slow down, because they
Oh,
are often, I've tried this and I've tried this and I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm doing the next thing and blah, blah, blah. And it's like they're throwing things at the dog, trying to get it to do what they want it to do, for instance. And they haven't taken the time to just slow the whole thing down and really start listening to the dog and learning, what is the dog, again, what is the dog communicating? Instead of just, I'm trying this and I'm trying that, and I'm trying the next thing. It's like they're on a train, a runaway train, trying all these things. And it's very often, especially the calls I get, I suppose, because, I specialize in sensitive dogs, and that's very often rescue rehab dogs or dogs from shelters. And people will have the dog for maybe 2, 3 weeks, and they're expecting already so
mhm.
much from that
Mm.
dog. It's already supposed to have fitted into the home, made friends with the neighbor's dog, able to go on walks, blah, blah, blah. And again, it's just slow down, slow down, just allow this animal to have the time and the space and the choice to start navigating a new world that they have suddenly been dumped into, as it were.
Mm.
We think we're doing them a favor, but often we forget that it's a completely new universe that we've just brought them into. And
Mm.
that takes time for them to settle in and find their way. So slow down would be another one.
Oh, there's so many good nuggets in there.
There
I'm
are.
just gonna slow down and take these one by one because, like, I don't know if I should say mine first or, like, talk about yours first. There's so many good things. But I have to go back to the thing that you were saying about performance. And I'm like, it got me, like, I just saw this vision. And are we as, you know, dog people, like companions, are we always performing to try to look
Mm.
good? And I think that that's something that we have to take a super honest look at. Like when we take our dog out for a walk, are we out there like performing? Look, my dog can behave in this situation. Can yours?
Exactly.
And I mean, I just have this like, it's almost like that.
Yeah.
Kind of pompous, like my dog didn't lunge at that car, but I saw that yours did. And I'm over here like being dragged through the dirt face first because my dog's chasing the car down the road. And I think there's just so much juicy nugget in there. And then the slowing down, I think just in society in general, we don't even remember anymore how to go slow because our phones are dinging and we're
Mm.
becoming like multitasking people rather than like focused attention, and our animals are still trying to have that like focused attention. So I mean there's so much. But my answer I think would be thanks for calling me. I'm so super stoked that you chose to work with me on the human side of this partnership. And I think maybe that would be the simplest thing because when people call me to work and it's like I've worked with enough animals through the animal communication and aromatics that, there's just such an emotional human component
Mm.
to everything that goes on in the dog's life. And it ties back to exactly what Rachel, you talked about with the dog doesn't have a behavior problem.
Mm.
And it ties right into performance. And I think, you know, we see people that have these seemingly perfectly well-behaved dogs out in the world, and we have no idea what that dog's like behind closed doors. I mean, they could have they could be puking all the time. I mean, there's so many things that like, okay, your dog walks really great, but that like we traverse challenges through our life, and I think challenges are good. I think that they encourage us to dig deeper within ourselves to reawaken something that we've long forgotten. And
Mm.
so I used to just be so embarrassed by our challenging dogs, which we seem to be very, very, very good at attracting. But I'm grateful for it because I'm here with you guys talking about it, and it's something that I think needs to be talked about. So
I had one of those. I was really laughing when you were saying about the performance because I would have really prided myself on looking calm and like people say to me in my 20s, 30s, "You're so calm." I was like, "Yeah, no, I've practiced it." Really, like, I've honestly but then recently I had this thing where my face was doing something weird, like, I'd be looking off to the left and my face would go off to the right, and that's like my no you know, like this self and as a kid, I used to have this I can't you won't see it on Spotify or on the podcast channels, but I used to have a thing as a child, I don't know how old I was, and I'd do something weird with my eyes, like I'd over blink. I'd blink like really like that, blink, blink. And my parents would point it out and going, "You're doing that blinking thing." And I'd be like that, "Oh, blink, blink, blink." And and it was just obviously an like all the focus being put on me. I found it so embarrassing. And so when you were saying about the performance thing, I can totally relate to that because I think in I feel more and more I am more authentically me, but I do like in lots of places I'm sure I do put on like this whatever calm exterior when I'm underneath I'm shitting it is like the truth of it. And so I took Darcy out the other day. We live on a really quiet road and there's this one dog that when her first encounter with this dog on lead, Darcy was or whatever the situation was. She was in season. She was on her boyfriend's lawn, and this dog walked past, and she went absolutely like rah 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 rah. And I'd not met this guy yet before, I don't think, and we were quite new to the road, so I can't even go. Sorry, my dog looks mental out loud because she's shouting so loudly. So I would just be like, no one would be able to hear me. So the other day it happened, I'd gone out with my night torch and taken her out and we saw this dog who I know is just like a real sweetie. She's an absolute sweetie and the guy's a real sweetie. And Darcy did her like rah 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 because generally dogs coming towards her when she's on lead, she feels really restricted. She's the kind of dog that likes to run around, blah 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 blah. Anyway, so she's going rah 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 rah, and I'm like, oh Darcy, you look mental. What I'm obviously really saying is I look highly incompetent
Yeah.
as this gorgeous dog just walks by. Anyway, I ended up messaging him and saying, look, she is actually genuinely, this is what she's, on lead, she really struggles with dogs coming towards her, blah, 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 blah. She's mates with the other dogs down the road. Maybe, how would you feel about if we did like a casual potter together with the girls? And he was so sweet and came back and said, yeah, of course, we can do that whenever. And then as soon as I said it, I thought, oh, but I don't want to do like a staged one. Like, what if the dogs don't want to? Yada, yada, yada. So I really just did like I do in animal communication and just played out the scenario and brought the girls into it. And what I saw this scenario play out on how they wanted to do it. Anyway, Saturday, I took Darcy just down the road where we've got this little field and I let her have a run around off lead and then popped her on. And then in comes the guy, impromptu, with his dog off lead. She comes over and kind of Darcy's in her sit, like stalk, stare. And the other dog comes over within about 10 meters and looks and then potters off. And then they end up like walking around together. And I'm like, it was so, so, so cool. But I think that, one of the massive benefits of that was I got to have a different conversation with someone in my neighborhood. And he was really lovely and we spent time together and the girls got to hang out. But I think it is that performance of like, I look highly incompetent. My dog she doesn't even look mental. She looks like ferocious. But I know it's just an abundance of energy exploding out of her gob. So, but it's funny, isn't it? But as human beings, we find difficult conversations hard and we might avoid them. But when you kind of own that Oh, yeah, man, that was so freaking embarrassing. But actually, my truth is, I know her and I want to have a different conversation, different experience with her. And then I think, but it's not always easy to do, if it's someone you don't know. But anyway,
Mm.
that's my little story.
Oh,
Hope
it's
that's useful,
brilliant, brilliant,
mate.
Rach. I love that, and
Such a good
it's so
story.
apt because I can guarantee you 99.99999% of people who have dogs who are rambunctious or overreactive or all of those things will have thought exactly the same thing. And my question is, why do we think our dogs are a reflection of our own behavior or capabilities? Why do we automatically think that if my dog doesn't behave well or look a certain way, it's a direct reflection on me?
Mm.
Yeah, like you've given birth to them and
Yes.
they've got the same DNA and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
We do it with kids too, parents, we do it with our children too, but specifically, I find it so interesting that we feel that way about our dogs, that we feel that their behavior is a direct reflection on our abilities or the way we brought them up, as you said. So
Well,
I think that's quite interesting. Um, and I just want to add a little story to that as well. That I had my two dogs are elderly now. When I say elderly, the one Charlie is 13 and a half, and Layla's going on for 12. She'll be 12 this month. And we've had a lot of experience. We've had loads of times where things were absolutely chaotic and hectic and didn't work out at all well, but they're just now in a chill phase. And I've done a shitload of work on myself, so I feel a lot more confident in my abilities when I'm out there. And I don't feel the judgment anymore. I don't feel the judgment if people are judging me or judging my dogs anymore. I don't have that anymore. But there was a time when I did, and life wasn't difficult and walks were difficult. But now our walks are really chilled and they're really great. But the I feel for so here's a perfect example, and this happens fairly regularly. So there'll be a guy walking or a lady walking with their dogs, and mine are sort of off leash, and maybe I'll put one on leash if I can see that there's all leashed up and need space, etc. I just ask my dogs to move over nicely, or I put them on leash. I might distract them. I might play a game with them if I feel if it's necessary. But generally, we just pass them with a smile and a wave, and I totally understand what they're going through. So I have a lot of empathy and I greet them and I show them the same kind of, like you said, the same kind of kindness and empathy that this gentleman showed for you, Rachel, and your position and your dogs. Because when people don't feel that, when they don't feel judged, so you, you, you on purpose, you make them feel it's okay. It's like, it's fine. Your dogs can bark. It's really no big deal. Give them that feedback straight away. So I really do. I go out of my way to give people feedback in that regard. But what I was wanting to say about like this gentleman would walk past and then his little dogs would be yapping at the end of the lead and going at my dogs, and mine sort of look at me and walk past and we smile and walk on. And then inevitably they turn around to their dogs out loud so we can all hear and say, Do you see? Do you see? Why can't you be like those dogs?
oh,
Hey, I'm sure you've heard this before. Why can't you behave like
mm,
those dogs? You see how good they are? And I always feel so bad for these little dogs because no, they don't know that my dogs are good dogs and they bad dogs. They don't see it like that at all. And
mm-mm,
yet that's what people will say. Why can't you behave like that? But you see how good they are? Those such good dogs. It's not that they're good dogs. It's that because they're mature and they've had a lot of life experience and they're now comfortable off lead and there is no big deal, and their person, namely me, is fairly chilled out as well. So it makes a big difference. And it's got nothing to
mhm,
do with being a good dog or a bad dog. It's
mhm,
simply, if people just understood that it's not a case of just training your dog and then they behave like that. All right.
mhm.
It's a lot of life experience. It's a lot of different things that go into that melting pot to make a really chilled dog, let's say, right, out on walks.
Yeah.
I love that story. That's such a there's just so much golden in all of this because it's so true that we look at I mean, I have to say this quick story. We have a Aussie who's 5 now, and her name's Zori, and she's just a little firecracker, and she's a great dog. She's my spirit guide dog, but we have a joke because when she was going through her fear period, that 4 to 5 month fear period, we happened to be out on a walk, and it clicked onto her, and she became afraid of shadows. And so we couldn't walk her home. She was just barking and going nuts at the shadows. She was terrified. And there's like we didn't like we had to run onto a neighbor's yard to get to a shade tree. So we're like we picked her up and we ran in under the shade tree and we just let her be. And then we waited like for clouds, but of course there's no clouds. So we just sort of like walked her backwards home so that she didn't have to see the shadow. And that kind of lasted. And she started like jumping at like the TV and just any like movement like that. So it was that kind of movement. And so she's outgrown it obviously at 6, but she will still chase shadows in the yard, which is hilarious and very tiring. But and I think there's a lot of people that want to stop that, but now it's a game. And you know how like dogs have different barks, and she just has this, the only time she makes this little like bark is when she chases her shadow at night, and she's just like this crazy playful bark, and it's just so awesome, and she just loves to do it. But occasionally she'll still jump at the TV, like if we're watching sports or something, and then she'll instantly come and run up and like get on my chest, because I know 5 years ago I was probably like, would you stop it? And so now she comes and she lays on my chest and she puts her head on my chest, and I go, I don't pet bad dogs. And she's like, she puts her head on my chest and I start petting her. And I'm like, but I don't pet bad dogs. And it's just like a little game because, again, the good dog, bad dog thing it just doesn't, it just doesn't jive, right? Because she doesn't know, like she's just responding, like her sensory system is so sensitive to, I mean, she hears Jim drive down the street to come home from work in an electric car. I don't even see the headlights yet, and she knows he's coming home and she's at the door. And it's not like he gets home at 6:07 p.m. every night. It varies anywhere from 6 o'clock to 7:15, 7:30. I mean, he doesn't have a hourly job, so I don't know how she knows, but it's that, like, that sensory system that they have goes so far that it's just it's wild. And then, Sue, I've been thinking about your question, like, why are dogs considered such a reflection for us? And I think, they're here to help us understand our honesty and our reactions. And we again look at our reactions as good or bad. We look at incompetence as a bad thing, and it isn't.
Mm-mm.
We just don't know in that moment. And we act in the moment, and why are we trying to change it instead of embody that? And just
Well, I
there's
think that's so brilliant, Kim, because that's exactly it. We feeling triggered ourselves.
Mhm.
We are
Mhm.
feeling triggered by the behavior. So we are responding with a pattern. We are responding with a protection pattern, like either scrambling to do something right, or we're feeling the guilt or shame, or we're trying to blame the dog, or we're blaming the situation. We automatically slip into our own protective patterns that we have developed whenever we feel uncomfortable or put in a situation that we don't, yeah, that there's, we don't feel confident or good enough, or et cetera, et cetera.
Mm,
So it is a reflection for us, but it's
yes.
not a reflection of us, if you if that
That's
if you know what I mean.
Yes,
yes,
that's
yes,
it.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Oh,
because the reflection for us can be really subtle, and because I love looking at reflections. I love looking at how Darcy is showing me my stuff,
Mm.
even though I know I don't. It may be so deep, I'm not aware of it. So I may need the really obvious extreme mirror to bring that back. And the thing that popped into my head when you both were talking was being outspoken. We're being unruly on here, aren't we? We're talking about things that, and we know that all of us before we started the podcast were like, "Ooh, what can we talk about? What we can't talk about?" And and we're letting loose more and more as the episodes go on and digging deeper in that. But I feel like it is that, like, one layer of it with Darcy is that I'm just thinking in different social situations, I'll there'll be moments where I want to say something, but I'll hold back, which of course is exactly what I need to do in that moment. But I'll feel it and I'll feel like the heat rising in my face because I'm kind of scared of what the repercussion will be, or so it's that. Whereas Darcy's just like blah 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 blah,
Exactly.
and she's just like whatever. She's cool with it, and the next minute she's chasing squirrels or whatever, rolling in foxboo. But where she's not sitting there going, "Oh no, wish I hadn't said that," So it's bit of yeah, yeah. So I feel a little bit of it is that, but also the what is embarrassment? Like, what is that? It's. Do you think it's a purely human experience? Embarrassment. Like, I'm thinking back to school and in geography class. I mean, I love traveling, but I was never any good at geography. And our teacher used to have us all stand up in the classroom when we came in. He was actually a PE teacher that taught geography. Do you remember when they? Anyway, we had to all stand up, and then you had to answer a question. What is the capital of ... country? And it was always me and my mate Kelly that were stood up last because I just didn't know the answers. And he'd leave you standing there for ages. And in that situation, I would have been embarrassed. But in another situation, I would have made myself stand out because I thought it was funny. So I would have put myself in a situation to draw attention to myself, which someone else might have found embarrassing. So I think it's a bit like what you were saying about the dogs. We want them to be like, we don't want them to bark in this situation, but we do want them to bark in that situation. Suppose we're different in, some things that I do, people would be like, that's so embarrassing. I'm like, oh, it doesn't embarrass me in the slightest. I love it. But others, I do feel it. So it's a funny feeling.
Yeah, it is. It's very
isn't it?
much context and situation, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yet that we automatically expect our dogs to do the same, to know what context it's in and what situation it's in, and then be able to perform accordingly. Yeah, it's quite silly, isn't it? But I just wrote down good child here, and I just want to go back to that because I remember Amber Batson. She's a vet behaviorist, and she was talking about this once, and the example was so brilliant. She was pushing her dogs. She was pushing her kids in a pram, a very young child in the pram, and somebody came over, walked over, and looked in the pram and sort of said, "Oh, such a sweetie. Oh, such a good child." They asked, "Is it a good? Is he good? Is he good?" And what does that mean? Because I remember being asked that as a mum as well. Is your child, are they good? What does that mean when they were asking me, is my child good at the age of 10 to age of 3 months? I mean, how can they know good or bad? What they were referring to when people ask that question is, do they sleep at night? Do they eat? Do they are they nicely contented, calm babies that don't cause any trouble, basically? And isn't that interesting? Because that's exactly how we think a good baby should be. And so automatically, yes, we're going to transfer that onto our dogs as well. If they're seen and not heard, they eat, they sleep, they smile, they, entertain us when we want them to, then they're good. And that's how as a society, we've been conditioned to believe that that's good behavior,
Mm,
right from a
mm,
baby, goodness sake,
mm,
your 3-month-old baby, are they good? Well, no, they're
mm.
really bad. They're bad babies because they keep me up at night. And I mean, come on, people. Isn't
It's
it
too
ridiculous?
restricting, isn't it? Yeah, yeah, it is nuts. And that, I suppose it'll be cultural as well, won't it? If we all live in different countries, so there
Mm,
will be different expectations, human imposed expectations on what a good and bad dog is. You go to a completely different culture, it'll be different again. So it's
Mm.
yeah.
I think you're right. I think there will be cultural differences, but I think generally, we term calm, good, quiet, non-provocative um, expressions as good,
Mm.
and anything that's a bit loud, out of line, blah, we call, and that's what dogs do. They bark. They express themselves through barking, and so straight away, a barking dog is often termed bad behavior or bad dog just because it barks, right?
I
And
know.
just because some dogs don't bark.
Well,
It's crazy.
I mean, so much has come to mind, and the word control just keeps coming out. And those
Mm,
reactions that you talked about being good, right? Calm, all that. Like we would call that controlled. Like we use the word controlled. And I mean, so many people come to me and talk about like my dog growled. And I'm like, okay. And I used to see it like them. I mean, I get it. It's the thing that's escalated from maybe like a teething or whatever, but it's something to be mindful of, and what's the situation, and we certainly need to understand the mechanisms behind all of that.
Mm.
But it's funny when you were talking, Sue, the story that came to mind on safety comes into it when we're out with our dogs. You're not gonna, I mean, we have Django who he's terrified to be within 50 meters of another animal or person. But we go to nose work class and like he freaking loves it. He's the first one out the door. He's the first one into the building, but we're mindful of his need for safety and to feel good in that situation. So we carry him from his crate to the search area. Once he gets his feet down in that search area, he is the best in the class, but he cannot, like, the busyness of how many dogs and people are wandering around. And we've tried all of those things, right? Back when we were doing all the we went to 8, 9 trainers. I mean, it was exasperating, but it's part of how I ended up here because it got through my stubborn head that we can do this differently. And so now he's a 40-pound Aussie. We carry him from his crate to the search area, from the search area to the crate, from the crate to the car. And we don't give two craps about whether someone judges us for that or not. It just doesn't matter, but it used to. I
Yeah.
used to be mortified. We almost quit going, but do you quit going when he loves it so much? We love
Mm.
it. It's like I don't there's something about it that for our family that like works for us. And new people come into our class and they stare at us for like a couple of weeks and then they get it. And we're just happy being our quirky little family. It's great.
I love
yeah, I
that.
love that, Kim. And yeah, wouldn't it be a pleasure if so many more people would just, as you say, embrace the quirkinesses and find workarounds that don't look particularly, uh, we use the word inverted commas, normal. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what is normal, right? Why are we're trying to fit round dogs into square holes or square dogs into round holes, whatever it is. It's just, sometimes they just need it to look differently, right? Exactly like
Mm.
Mm.
you've done there, something completely out of the ordinary. Why do we have to say that that's wrong, right?
Mm.
Just there's so many different opportunities that we can find workarounds or different ways to do these things versus saying, well, I can't do this because of
Mm.
XYZ.
Mm.
Like you said, I can't do nose work with my dog because they're reactive. Well, maybe the environment is too stimulating for a kind of dog, that it's not going to be a good option. But like you said, when Django can actually get in there and do his thing, it's not that. It's just that, they're getting from A to B. So yeah, finding workarounds. And again, it doesn't
Mm.
have to look like it's supposed to look. What is it supposed to look like? Like again, walking our dogs. Is it supposed to look like my dog walks at my heel on the left side on a loose lead when I I mean, it's such a farce, isn't it? That's that perfect looking
I hope not.
performance that we were talking about earlier, right?
We must look absolutely crackers when we walk Darcy, because it took me a while to work out that, I mean, it sounds so obvious. We've got a working dog. She's an English pointer, so she likes it pointing at stuff, right? And chasing it and stalking it. So that's innate in her. So we take her to this one place where there are loads of sheep. I'm sure I've said this before, and I love being surrounded by sheep because I just love watching the interspecies communication. That
Mm.
really lights me up. Like any other animal, I'm just like, that's really cool. And but there are all of these little brambles that run along the ground. So we have her on a long line, if the sheep are in there, obviously. And she's just taking us around this field. And there's a main road goes along the sides, and people must just see us being hauled to the left, to the right. We're running, we're tripping over. But I just love it. I like, and it's the same. We go to the same. We'll wake up on a weekend and we'll think, well, weekends, a lot of people go out and do walks and hikes. Should we do that? We're like, no, let's go to the sheep field, and we like going to the same place regularly.
Mm,
There are times when I think, oh, I might just take it to the beach because I'm feeling I need a bit more of adventure, or she needs it. But I think also there's a lot of pressure for the dogs to do lots of different things. But actually, when I look at all the dogs in my road, everyone really has their own unique routine. And
mm.
it isn't like, we see on these Instagram reels where you've got someone with spaniels like hiking up mountains and jumping out of aeroplanes and surfing. And I'm like, wow, we're just like we're watching Stranger Things and tripping over brambles, like talking to sheep. I don't know that that's Instagram worthy, especially, but I think but I love it. And I think that's the point. You've got to, when we buy into other people's ideology of what life with a dog looks like, and we don't realize how much we have bought into it. It is actually massive, the indoctrination.
Mm,
Mm.
That I'm
mm,
going to use that word because it is indoctrination, because we've forgotten, it's a generalization, but we've forgotten how to think for ourselves.
mm.
So the idea of being a rebel, or, during the COVID time, like anyone that was slightly rebellious was shamed. Like, hey, you think differently from, you're dangerous. So there is this rhetoric that it's dangerous or not acceptable or inconsiderate to do things your way, to do it what works for you and your dog.
Mm,
And
mm,
it isn't. It's just, you've just got to find your way through that.
mm.
And our dogs will drag us to that point if we're
Yes.
willing to listen.
Mm.
Yeah.
Literally.
Literally
Yeah,
drag us to
literally.
Well, the other thing that comes to my head after this, and it's really just, again, more of like, what do you two think? But do you have clients? Because I hear it often, and I've thought it myself a million gazillion times, when you finally, when you're training or whatever you're doing with your dog, and you take a couple of steps forward, and then all of a sudden, like, you think you're past some hurdle, and then that pattern repeats itself again, and you find yourself, and we continually say, "Oh, I just took a step back, I regressed." And it just simply isn't true. I mean,
Mm-mm.
I don't think it is. What about you?
I agree, and I feel like I know where you're going with that. It's linked into this is good, that's bad, but it's
Mm.
just I'm just thinking about someone was talking about a dog with skin issues, and they're working with a nutritionist, and the dog's skin is let's use the word better and better, right? So it's clearing up. But then suddenly the skin has flared up and the person's thinking, oh no, nothing's working and it's failed. But I understand why you would feel like that, but actually it's just feedback about what's going on in that dog's ecosystem. Maybe they need to try different herbs. Maybe they're moving into the winter and their diet has their body needs something different. Maybe they're not coping with the water that's coming out of the taps. Maybe there's something going on in the relationship, in the family. If we only look at it, it's got worse. We're thinking we've failed, but actually it is just feedback. Yes, it's uncomfortable feedback, but it is feedback about how that dog is feeling. And the freedom comes when you see it as feedback about the whole ecosystem, not just about the dog's skin. But so I have an itchy foot sometimes, my right foot specifically, and it comes and goes. And when it flares up, I know stuff's getting louder. And so I tend to look at it more that way rather than it's good or bad. I'm like, my foot is talking to me. She's literally having a conversation about something that's going on. Yeah, it may be that I don't like it, but I still know that it's my body's way of communicating about what. And when we explore it that way, that's when yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I love that, Rachel, and I've seen that so often. As with humans, many dogs who are sensitive or nervous or anxious in any way have tummy issues, right? And it's just, because we know the gut is so linked to that stress cycle. And so we know from humans as well, it can be like, we can say it's like a weak spot. Okay. So very often when stress rises, our tummies flare up, whether it's a GI or whatever it is. Okay. And the dogs have similar. They have there's so many dogs who have tummy issues. And just like your client, maybe they'll go to a dietitian and think, well, the dog might have an allergy or they might have blah, blah, blah. And as you said, temporarily it may help. It may lessen, or the symptoms may lessen. But then some other kind of stress, or whatever that is, will come into the dog's life and the tummy will flare up again. And then they think exactly that, oh, no, it's not that. It's just that happens to be, as you say, the part of the body that's talking the loudest, or the part of the body that usually gets the balance, usually gets upset when whatever in that system, whatever in that dog's ecosystem is not working at the moment. So yes, and that would go for behavior as well, Kim. The same thing. If people say, well, I saw the behavior getting better and then it regressed or something else happened and we've gone back to square one again, because the just like the tummy issue, the behavior is a symptom, you could say, or a way of the dog's body communicating, their system communicating that something's out of balance for them or something's out of whack for them. And so, yes, you may get one situation, let's just say, where, right, so things are going well in the dog's life, you going well, the dog's going well, it's a great season, as you say, it's perfect for them, and the behavior seems to improve. So there's so many different factors going into that. It's not just because you're now on this behavior program or that diet that you can tick a box and say that's solved, that's done. Right? It's not, that isn't the case. It's just ongoing communication with the animal, with their body expressing, as you said, all those kind of things. It's just, and that's for me why I always say you can't, like you said right at the beginning, behavior is not, there's no such thing as a behavior problem. It's communicating to us what's out of balance in that dog's ecosystem at the moment, at that particular time. And there could be so many factors that are playing into that it's like a needle in a haystack. You will never be able to say it's that and tick that box and move on. It's just not that way. It's not that simple. And maybe that's one of the the truth bombs going right back to the
Right.
beginning, Kim, that we could
Yeah.
say is that it's not that simple. It's not a
Mm.
case of, and so many people expect this. Well, give me a training plan, ABC, tell me what to do, or tell me how to change the dog's diet, or tell me what to do this, and then I can tick that box and move on. And it's just not the case.
Well, I think that's so true. Like everything that you guys said, and I'm just going to add the little caveat of that is that, like, we think again that a recurring pattern is a bad thing or a problem, but sometimes it's an indication for us to look back. We're never going backwards. We're always spiraling upwards. And I think it's such a great moment to look back and say, wow, I just handled that so much better than the last time. You know, I didn't lose my shit for 3 hours. I only lost my shit for 10 minutes, and it's such a big difference. And I can tell you that I have seen that very thing with like Zori, who I would tell you she gets into fights with Django, but it's not true because now that I see it with different eyes, she just goes from like, she's just so like, she's a little spark plug that just goes from 0 to 1,000. It's her personality. That's who she is. I'm exactly the same way when I look at it. I'm just like, well, damn. But it's like I see myself in her and she's grounding on him. So we've tried really hard to get her to like ground on a toy or some other thing because she's not mad at him. She's just like, Jim shut a cooler lid the other day and it squeaked. Right. And she just like lost herself and like on him. And then they get into a fight because it doesn't feel good. And so he goes back at her and was like, get off of me. And she's like, and then, it's just this cycle. And I used to get so upset. And I always saw it as like, I was the pressure cooker full of like rice. And they did that so that I would release some of that I had been sweeping under the rug and holding in. But now it's like, I almost find the whole thing funny because you watch it and I'm watching it in slow motion. I see her eyes get really big and then she looks around and that warm fleshy fur is right over there. Just, it's like a lightning bolt coming down and hitting a building. It has to go somewhere. That energy has to go somewhere. And so now that we know that's who she is, we just know that like another dog in the family has to have a specific kind of tolerance, for her. But like they're out there. I mean, we've had a couple in our life, I think Sue, you met Biggs and he would have been a perfect right? A perfect
Absolutely, yeah.
companion because he could just look and like he would take that energy in. And he never had to do or say anything. He very rarely ever, but he could just give a look and man, everything would just whoosh. And we kind of, when he transitioned, we just like, now we don't have that. We have just these lightning bolts.
We just have 2 lightning bolts, that's all.
We need the rod.
It's like some human couples though, isn't it? You see, I see some couples that I know and one of them is this massive character and they have to be with someone that's so grounded and earthy because and they just balance each other, don't they? And I mean, I'm looking, me and my partner, we're very similar in a lot of ways, but there are a lot of differences and it just creates this equilibrium that works. And you just know if they were with someone else, it wouldn't work, right? Like I wouldn't want to be with me. I wouldn't want to be with someone that was like me that, as awesome as I am, I wouldn't want to be with myself. I'm like, well, you just get out of bed in the morning. No, you get out. You get out. You make the tea. No, you make the tea. No, you go earn the money. No, you go earn the money. So it just wouldn't work, would it? So we have to have all these different characters. And it's probably the same with plants as well. Like when you plant, I'm not a botanist. So I don't know about these things, but I don't know if that's the right word. But when you plant plants next to certain plants, I'm sure some must like give each other a prod with the roots and be like, move over there. You're a bit close. I don't know, or they just grow like really big leaves and overshadow the other. I think it's just it's just I don't know, maybe I'm making this up, but I'm sure it's not just dogs that have
Oh,
these different energies, personalities.
oh my God. You're saying that, and that's exactly what happened in our garden this year.
Is
We
it?
plant we planted zucchini and squash, and like I have read in the gardening magazines, don't plant tomatoes next to zucchini and squash. Well, 2 wild tomato plants came up right next to the zucchini plants, and they tried. I've never seen bigger leaves in my entire life on these zucchini plants, and they tried to take out the tomato plants, and the tomato plants just said, "Screw you," and grew sideways, like out this way. And I'm telling you what, the fruits that we got off of both of those were like unbelievable how much. It was exactly
I
what you just
bet.
said. It was awesome. And I mean, we
Like,
didn't, we just let it go.
I love that.
Didn't try to control it. Didn't take a, oh, you're not supposed to grow tomatoes next to zucchini. And a few years ago, I would have pulled that plant out.
Oh,
And
You're
now I'm
not
like,
supposed to grow, yeah.
let's see what happened.
yeah.
Let nature
And what
figure
about the
it out.
squash? What did the squash do? Was it just like, well, I'm here with
Oh,
it?
they were,
Will
I'm not kidding. If I tell you we had 2 plants and got like a couple hundred squash, I'm not joking. We gave,
flipping heck?
I mean, it was unbelievable the amount of, we couldn't keep up. I think we still have a pile out there somewhere under the snow.
Wow.
And
Gosh.
we like, for real this year, we didn't tend to the garden. We just planted
Mm.
things and let nature take its course. We
Mm.
never planted zinnias. We had a whole yard full of zinnias. Like, it was awesome just to let it happen.
And what is a zinnia for
A
listeners like
flower.
me that don't know what? No.
It's a
Oh no, but
it's a
what?
flower.
What does it look like?
Oh,
I
they're beautiful. They come in many colors, pink and red, and so they
oh,
kinda open up and look like, I think, not like an echinacea flower, which are called cone flowers, right? Is that the nickname for an
oh, okay,
echinacea? But they're
right.
they're different than that, but they're more bulby on the top.
Mm,
They're
that's
great.
brilliant.
I'm going to
So,
bring in our title here, Unruly by Nature, because that isn't it so true? I mean, nature does have rhythms and it does have cycles and it does have ecosystems that work together, but it's also unruly. I mean, I remember walking in the forest. I think it was last winter. I actually did a little video of it because I just stopped in the middle of the forest and I just looked at what was growing and how it was growing. And had someone walked into that and looking for a garden, it was anything but a garden.
mm,
There was old bushes, there was dead trees, there were new buds trying to come up through
Huh.
the, under that, as you said, trying to grow around that dead tree or that dead branch or whatever. It looked a mess. It looked untidy. It looked unruly. And yet that was a perfect ecosystem, right? There was
mm,
Mm,
mosses, there was little mushrooms popping up, and there was probably a whole host of little organisms and animals that I couldn't see that were living in that ecosystem. And
mm,
it was nothing that you would say this looks like a pretty scene. It was just yeah, just nature just doing its thing, right? And
mm,
finding its way. And isn't, if we just did that, like let's just say if we just said this is who we are and this is the dog we've got. Let's just find our way. Let's just work it out. Let's just see how it goes. And I mean, I think that would be so brilliant, don't you? I know
mm,
it's
mm,
not always possible because we live in certain circumstances, etc. But yeah, just being more relaxed about it instead of
mm,
looking like in a perfect way. Just let it be a little bit unruly. Let's just see what we can learn from that. Because again, if unruly or um, imperfect was more of a thing in our society, we would probably have way less worries
mm,
and
because
more
we wouldn't be
fun.
because we wouldn't be striving so much to have that perfection or whatever. It would just be a lot more fun and easy, wouldn't it?
Yeah. What sniffs have you got while we're on
mm.
the plants?
Patchouli.
Oh,
Oh.
Well, I love it.
Such opposite reactions. Oh, ugh. That is
Awesome.
not a yes from me.
Oh, it's
No,
a
not a
big yes
yes.
for me.
Oh, I haven't had that one out for a while. I do have to reorganize my box. I've gone with, like, my disarray of oils. I can't find anything. It's driving me batty. I'm an organizer, but I let Django pick today,
Ah,
and
cool.
he picked ginger.
Mm.
So back to our
Mm.
conversation and digestive issues, which is interesting
Yeah,
because the very first thing that our body systems will shut down when stress takes over is digestion because it's not
yeah,
necessary. So I find it really interesting that we were talking about that and I have ginger.
for sure. I made myself a vat of
Oh,
rosehip tea,
Mm.
nice. Oh,
which
very nice.
yeah, which I've never done before. And I was thinking because it's quite earthy. There is a sweetness, but it's quite earthy. And I thought might be quite nice to put a little bit of honey in it. But I actually don't naturally like honey, maybe, or I haven't tried it with. I haven't. Yeah. Anyway, so then after I drank my tea and I pick out my oil, the oil I picked is Manuka.
Manuka
Ooh,
honey.
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
yeah, isn't that amazing? Absolutely. So I am have to go and get myself some Manuka honey. Um, but yeah, I love that. Oh, it's just communication always
Mm.
giving us feedback, isn't it? It's so cool.
Oh, yeah.
So
I don't
funny.
I don't
Sorry,
usually
Kim, I'm
enjoy. Oh, oh, no, the I
Up, that. I'm just gonna go back to the honey quickly because I think it's so interesting. Like you said, I don't. It's not like I use honey a lot. I don't put it in my tea or in my cereal or whatever. Most or on my toast. I don't particularly go for the honey. But recently, when I had the flu, um, I was I really wanted a lot of, I was obviously the more warm liquids one drinks, the better. But I really felt like tea, so I brought all my herbal teas out, and I was drinking liters and liters of herbal tea every day. And I was mixing some honey in with it because I knew it was good for my throat. But it was like my body knew exactly when I was took a spoon in the honey, it was just like went automatically straight into my mouth. And I would
Mm.
never have thought of, it's too sweet for me normally to just put a whole teaspoon of honey in my mouth. And yet I did. Every day I was having like a whole teaspoon of honey, and it was
Mm,
so, 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 so good. And now if I had to walk
Mm.
into the kitchen and open the honey jar, a teaspoon of honey would be way, 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 way too sweet for me. I couldn't take it. So the body
Mm.
knows exactly what it
mm,
needs when it needs it. It's brilliant, just brilliant.
Doesn't it? And
I
this
love
tea's gone
that.
cold now, and it tastes even better now it's cold.
Oh, next time make it iced tea.
Mm.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go through a lot of rose hips.
Did you just make it with rose hips and water?
Rosehip shells. Yeah.
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 Mm.
And
Oh,
I've
Oh, lame.
I've got a whole box of herbal teas that I got as a gift, and it's just they're all different herb mixes, and some of them are with black tea, some of them with jasmine tea, some of them with rooibos tea, and some of them are just the herbs, and they are just divine. I love it. And it's so funny
Mm.
because, like you say, in winter I drink liters and liters of tea, and come summer I'll drink a bit of iced tea, but not much. But I like that idea, making it into iced teas in
Mm.
summer.
Mm. I
I
like it.
I love honey. We go through vats of honey.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Local.
Mhm. Yes. Very good. So
Maybe you
good.
need to keep bees.
We've thought about it. We can actually do that here.
I have a brilliant visual of you in a beekeeping outfit now.
Well,
Being chased around your land.
that's actually a very real story, not with me, but with
Uh-huh.
my husband.
Is it?
I was at a dog conference with Suzanne Clothier, and I was so upset because I was just switching careers years ago, and Jim was at home, And right in the middle of this conference, I get a text, broke my collarbone. I'm off to the ER. And I'm like, what? So he broke his collarbone. And I laugh when I get hurt, and I laugh when I'm under stress. So I get to the ER. He's not in a room because it was really full. Sure shit, he's broken his collarbone. And I'm like ready to just rail on him for being on a ladder when I'm not home and all of these things. Like, because how do you break your collarbone? You fall. He proceeds to tell me the story that there was a wasp nest on our composter. So he took the wasp spray out and a big stick because he was trying to put stuff in the compost. And he poked at it and he thought he had killed them all, but he didn't. And they started like batting him in the back of the head, and he tossed the pole, tripped over it, landed and broke his collarbone. I'm in hysterics at the ER because I'm totally stressed out. And it's like my MO. I start laughing really hard and then I puke. I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be right back, because you just get so your digestion shuts down and it's almost comical. And so he actually did break his collarbone running away from bees.
Oh,
Wow.
shit.
And we've had a wasp on our kitchen window, like right by where we eat breakfast and dinner. And it's been there for a week. And I'm proud of him because he's not panicking, but he used to panic and I used to have to take it
Shame.
outside. And now he's just like watching it. So he's kind of gotten over it. But
Wasps don't have behavior problems. There's just
No.
perception.
They were getting their home attacked. They were just protecting their, it was their protection pattern. That'll
Oh,
teach them.
dear.
That's great.
So that
It-
actually did happen.
I'll share one last story. It reminds me of when I first got Charlie, and I was living in England, and I had a friend who got a crazy spaniel at the same time. So we had Charlie and her crazy spaniel, and they were two young dogs, and we used to go on walks, and we would inevitably come back, literally covered in mud, because we'd been dragged by our dogs through the brambles and through the mud, and the amount of times that we just ended up on the floor, literally laughing, as you said, almost wetting our pants, because we were just, what else do you do? You can scream and shout and be absolutely, finished to want to put your dogs in the kennel after every walk. This dog is going back to the kennel. Or we could just laugh about it and just say, just look at the like we would say to each other, did you ever imagine that this would be a phase in your life? Would be dragged through the mud daily, on a daily basis, by your dog, and embarrassed, covered from mud from head to toe. We did
Oh,
laugh.
man.
We
Good
laughed
times.
many times.
I love that. I love
It was
that.
either laugh or cry.
Or laugh and puke.
Yeah.
Great. Well, it's been fun, ladies.
Awesome. Yeah, we've been around the block a couple times.
We have.
Awesome.
Should we close the book?
I think that we will. I'm good. We've come full circle again.
Chapter 8 coming to a close.
Yeehaw. And it's
Thanks, ladies. It's
December.
been awesome.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Always great. Until next time.
Until
See you
next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.